designated as chair by Chief Justice Rush. Thank you to everyone who's joining us today, both in person and virtually. As a reminder, we will be conducting roll call votes for each action item today, as we do have members who are joining us remotely. We have a lot of new faces in the room, but I think the only new member of the council is Sheriff Jeff Ballin, who's joining us today from Porter County. And Sheriff Ballin is serving as the 2026 president of the Indiana Sheriff's Association. So Sheriff Ballin, seen a lot of you in the last 2 weeks, and we appreciate you getting off to such a great start. So welcome. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet everyone. Well, those of you that I don't know, it's nice to meet all.
And I will just take a minute because I think this is Director Saylor's first in-person meeting, but keep you busy, and so I know you've been attending virtually. But Director Sarah Saylors is also here present to my left, and she is our DMHA director, so we'll hear from her and her team a little later, but welcome.
Thank you.
The first agenda item is approval of our proposed minutes from the February 20th, 2026 meeting. Staff caused a copy of those proposed minutes to be distributed and circulated to council members. At this time, if there are any changes or corrections, I'd be happy to discuss them, but if there aren't any, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Doug. There is a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Angela. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, as I indicated, we do have to take a roll vote because we have some members attending virtually. Daniel, I see you're here from the Budget Association. There is a motion, a second, to approve the proposed minutes from February 20th. Do you approve?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. David?
Aye.
Yes. Aye. Danny? Yeah. Angela?
Yes.
Judge?
Aye.
Sheriff?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Carolyn?
Aye.
Chris?
Yes.
Aye.
Zoe?
Aye.
Okay, yeah, Steve?
Aye.
And I think that's everybody who's a member, so thank you. The proposed minutes will stand approved as presented. I'm now going to move into a discussion and report out from our JRAC work groups, and we'll first hear from Chris Bean. Chris, can you share information regarding the ongoing CEPP technical assistance as well as the 2025 local JRAC annual report? And before you do, I just also want to acknowledge Denise Simden, who's also joining us virtually from probably Wisconsin. Are you in Wisconsin today, Denise?
That's right. I'm back in Wisconsin.
Okay. Well, it's good to see you again, and thank you as always for joining us. Chris.
All right. Many of you have heard this spiel a lot from me lately, but the annual report surveys were due March 31st. We have allowed for some grace in submission so that the counties have the opportunity to actually review the survey with their local JRAC, therefore giving us a more thorough picture of the needs and sort of their stories. As of this morning, we have 48 of the 92 counties that have submitted. Counties have been communicating with me, asking for an extension into later this month and into May. I will continue to follow up with the counties that haven't submitted. The CEPP continues to work and provide technical assistance to the local JRACs. I'll let Denise provide any kind of update on that. Counties that are receiving, this is what we've received from the survey so far. The counties that are working with CEPP, as expected, are a bit more mature in terms of their operations as a local JRAC. They continually report more progress on things like system mapping, the development of their mission, and their local rules. And in fact, many of the counties where I allow for just free text specifically credit CEPP for the progress they have made as a local JRAC. Some of the dominant issues thus far with the 48 counties, any kind of grant reductions, Senate enrolled Act 1 have, as it was characterized by multiple counties, are sort of a perfect storm right now for the local justice system. Many of them citing the funding as the potential for reduction in evidence-based practices, any kind of programming that they're actually able to do right now going away. Housing, transportation, and mental health treatment are the top three service gaps that are reported statewide, regardless of whether it's a rural, urban, or a mixed setting. Opioid settlement fund governance, the practices vary widely. Some counties have very sort of complicated structure or sophisticated structure in how they actually award those out. So we have that where they're doing sort of sub-awards and they're reviewing them locally, and we also have counties that have no idea how their opioid settlement funds are being used, and they're not being brought to and discussed at the local JRAC. So with that, data capacity, again, remains something that many of our counties are struggling with. Some being, again, reporting that they do a pretty great job. They've established local performance measures. They review them regularly, and some that just really have no idea what they should be talking about. So that is, as it was, a direction that the JRAC data work group can take on. And it is something that we are sort of working on with that work group to help inform the counties of what they may be able to talk about and where they can get that information when they want to talk about data. That's it from me, and I'll kick it to Denise for TA updates.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chris. I'm getting a little feedback. So I hope that's not on for you. We are working with 14 local teams right now, and just are bringing on LaPorte County. So we're excited about that. We have about 20 counties left in the state to actually make contact with in regard to ongoing TA interest, that we're going to actively reach out to them that they haven't really expressed an interest in TA, but we haven't heard from them. So we're going to reach out to those remaining 20 counties just to see where they're at in regard to TA interest. And then we will have made contact with all the counties within Indiana. So we're pretty happy with that. We are also then working with Chris's staff to upload and be able to review the annual reports. I think there's just information we learn every year through looking through those annual reports. So I'll look forward to kind of jumping in and seeing where we can expand or where we can look at changing the services that we offer, or really understanding where future TA needs might lie within the counties as well. So we continue to progress and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Do members have questions for either Chris or Denise regarding the work of the local JRAC work group or the technical assistance package that counties are receiving from CEPP? Very well, thank you again to both of you, and we'll move on in the agenda. So next, I'm going to ask Michelle Goodman to please provide an update on the work of the communications work group.
Thank you, Justice Goff. The communications work group has met 2 different times. We met first in March. That opportunity was to kind of give folks who are not regularly attending these meetings to have an idea of what resources are already available, what's already on our website, what are some things that we've already done in terms of communication in the past, get them just to know where those things are and have an opportunity to take a look at them. Also give a little education on what JRAC is. Some of the representatives from the agencies might be like PIOs or other folks who are less familiar with the substantive work we do here. So it was a good opportunity to give them some background and information as well. We met again Monday of this week, so our goal was to talk about what their feedback was, what are their suggestions, what are the things they liked about what we have, but also where are areas of improvement and ideas to go forward and make things better. The other thing we did at our first meeting is Denise attended that meeting so we could review the strategic plan from JRAC regarding communications. So all of the work groups I know have a lot of ideas and suggestions. We're gathering those from all of those meetings. We're taking that in, the information from the communications work group, and then staff is meeting with CEPP to kind of map that stuff out, categorize things, make up some next steps that will aid the work groups in moving forward and working on the substantive items that will make areas for improvement and triage. We're not looking at any one pathway for communication. Some things may be website, some things may be email, some things may be asking stakeholder groups to pass along information or training opportunities, things of that nature. So there's not any guardrails or limitations. It's what we all think is necessary to get everybody more engaged and more understanding of the work we're doing here. In the interest of time, if you yourself have any suggestions on what needs to be better communicated, what ideas you have about methods or pathways, how you might be willing to help us if you have not yet had someone assigned to the committee, please let myself know or any of the staff and we'll get that on the list. That's all I have for that.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. I just want to thank all of the members for making your PIO and staff available for the meetings. I was able to attend the first meeting, and my hope is that through our work with our PIOs that we're going to be more effective in our ability to communicate to county-based systems what resources are available from the state to county-based justice systems. And likewise, we're more effective at hearing from our county-based systems as to how we can better serve them. So it's a lot of work, but I believe it's worthwhile, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank each of you for making your PIOs available. Any questions for Michelle regarding the communications work group? Very well. Hearing none, we'll next hear from Angie Hensley, who's going to give us a report out and update on the work of the data work group. Angie.
The data work group has been almost monthly since 2026. Some of that had to do with some technical issues we had at
Just talk slower.
talking slower. Okay, there we go. We've met most recently on April 9th. Our current activities include the creation of the network diagram that we're working on with Brendan O'Connor from our office that is surveying each of the members of the committee to try to get that information together to help other state agencies learn where information is housed and what type of information, so that can help if we have future data initiatives. The other thing we're working on, based on the annual report that we talked about, that Chris was talking about, is trying to identify at least 5 basic data points that counties, if they don't have a good infrastructure or a method by which they're collecting data, can start, and identifying what those are, who would have them, how they can access that information, and then how to interpret that information. I think that's where we want to make sure they can interpret it properly and that they know what they're saying. So I felt like 5 is a good number to start with from the group, because it's not so overwhelming that when you have nothing and then you start with 20, that's going to be too much. So, and those are due from the other members, and if anyone else has any ideas they want to send, we're asked that you send those by the 30th of the month, so that we can get that together for our next meeting.
Thank you for that report out, Angie. Do any members have questions for Angie regarding the work of the data work group? Hearing none, thank you again, Angie. We'll move on then to a report out from the reports work group, and for that report, I'll turn again to Michelle Goodman.
Thank you, sir. The reports work group has a few tasks that they're responsible for. The first one I want to report out is last week I sent information to the 2 counties that are required to send in data to us for the judicial lit reports. Those are due as submissions on May 1st. We'll bring that final report back to this group at the June meeting. Also, we've sent out the Q1 2026 electronic monitoring report information to the local JRAC, so they're starting to submit those. And in your materials for today, we have the Q4 from 2025 report and also the annual 2025 report from electronic monitoring. Those materials are provided for the council's review and approval today. And that would be my update, sir.
Thank you, Michelle. Do any members have questions for Michelle regarding the work of the reports work group? Seeing none, we do have an action item then for you. And so with respect to the quarter 4 electronic monitoring report and the 2025 annual report. Copies were provided ahead of time, and we also need
Nope.
just these two. So the action item then is, again, for the quarter 4 electronic monitoring report and the 2025 electronic monitoring annual report. Those reports were distributed to members in advance of today's meeting. Any questions or topics of concern? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the reports?
So moved.
Thank you, Judge. Is there a second? Thank you, Zoe. We do have a motion and a second to approve the proposed reports as presented. I'm going to go ahead then and start the roll. Daniel, if I could start with you again, do you vote to approve the reports?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. David?
Aye.
Yes.
Chris? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Danny?
Yes.
Angela? Judge?
Aye.
Ashley? Sheriff?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Yeah. Sarah?
Yes.
Chris?
Aye.
Carolyn? Chris?
Yes.
Zoe, okay. Steve, all right, thank you.
Or confusing.
Everyone, that's right. I told him I screwed up 2 or 3 times every meeting, but it's a lot of people. Very well then, the proposed reports will stand approved as presented. Thank you all, and thank you, Michelle. That's a lot of work that goes into keeping track of that. Appreciate it. We're now going to move on then to the first of 2 reports that, or presentations rather, that very excited for you all to hear. And I'm going to turn the floor over to Megan Morgan from our office for an in-jail update.
Thank you, Justice Goff. So first of all, let me share my screen. Okay, there we go. All right, thank you again, everyone. I'm excited to be here this morning to present to JRAC a status update on the in-jail application and how it's becoming the foundation for data-driven decisions and the work that we're doing on the application. So let's just jump right in. So what is in-jail? In-jail is a jail management system. It is designed for use in any Indiana jail, large or small. We started, our main purpose was to approve those CRIS records, those criminal history records, getting those returned to the Indiana State Police. It's also to help data-driven decisions across all of our justice partners, improve visibility into jail population trends, and I'll show you how we are accomplishing that here in our presentation, and strengthen that data quality. We want that data fidelity for statewide reporting. Sorry, I get tongue-tied a little bit here. We want to standardize the data collection that our jails are collecting. We want to know that that is reliable jail data and that it makes sense as we move forward with the project. So where we're at currently, we have 9 counties live, 13 counties engaged in various stages of implementing and moving to in-jail. We've completed over 20 different integrations across state, federal, and vendor applications. That's pretty large. We have additional counties who have requested MOUs. We have a lot of counties that are exploring adoption of in-jail, but they may be in various stages of either a vendor current contract commitment or there's some election processes going on in the state of Indiana. And so those new incoming administrations, a lot of our outgoing sheriffs want to leave that decision to those new administrations. So also, it's kind of exciting with 22 counties currently in the pipeline. That puts us at a projected rate of 25% of Indiana counties, and that represents about 300,000 people in those population areas. So it's very exciting. And this is really the first time that Indiana is going to have the ability to move forward with consistent jail data. So where are we? With the screen update here. So our 9 live counties are shown here. The state map, the counties in green are currently live. The counties in yellow are currently in the implementation pipeline. We've got Spencer is our next go live May 19th, followed by Jennings, St. Joseph, and of course all of these other counties. I get asked all of the time, how quickly can you get a county on the in-jail application? there's a lot of dependencies, and I want to speak to that here in a minute. But as you can see, we are making steady progress across Indiana with the implementation of the application. Our current focus area is on county onboarding. So we want to get those counties on the in-jail application and using the application. Again, we want to improve those criminal records fingerprint submission quality as that gets back to the Indiana State Police. And again, the data fidelity, strengthening data completeness, and I'll show you how we're working on that. But we're also working to develop seamless in-jail to in-jail transfer information. Where did that person go when they left my facility? Can we reduce duplicate processes if I'm not accepting jail that is taking possession of that inmate? To help our jails get people booked in and move through that process a little bit quicker. So what are we managing as we scale statewide? As the application matures, again, we're working on the bones. These are not unexpected issues. So data conversion complexity for old legacy systems. So when a jail joins the in-jail application, we pull their data, we convert it and bring it in so that it matches the standardized data that we want collected in jail. And so that can be complex at times. A lot of these older legacy systems are decrepit, they're unsupported. So that is usually what takes up the majority of our time. We also have to manage staff engagement constraints. One county, we were scheduled to go live in April, but they have a jury trial, and it's all hands on deck, so we've had to push their go live back. So staff availability, dependent upon what is happening in that county, is also something that we're managing. Vendor integration timing is an external dependency too. Vendors, if they are not able to do development to connect to us, then that slows down the progress. Additional development needs are often identified through those integrations. And also, as each county comes on board, we discover that there are things that one jail might be doing that benefit every jail in the state of Indiana. And so we look at those. We meet bi-weekly with all of our partners. These are the boots on the ground, the persons doing the work. And we talk about what is the hot button issue, what do we need to look at. We also have some moving targets, things such as legislative changes. If something changes, then we want to go back and look at the application to make sure that we're in compliance with the law, that with whatever new law change has applied. Our jails shift to vendors too, so we may build an interface or an integration with one of their current vendors that they have to conduct their day-to-day operations. So then we've got to shift and go back and revisit that. So all of these, and of course our developer capacity. We only have so many developers, and we have to make sure we're setting the priorities for what is the most significant thing that the jails need to have right now to get on the application. But we're managing all of that. We've added additional resources to the in-jail team. We've also added additional conversion resources. So we have 4 teams working simultaneously on that big list of all those counties to get them ready to go live and move on to the application. So why this matters to Indiana. So again, you're going to see this is giving us visibility to who is in jail today and why. The ability to track those length of stay and drivers of detention. Why did that person come into jail? What was every reason that they came into jail? How did that case change over the life cycle that person was in jail? We can also identify frequent utilizers and system touch points or data points where, hey, we've now been able to capture that point where that case status or that person's status in jail changed. And then, of course, reducing reliance on manual or inconsistent data sources. We had one county that we took live that was still pen and paper here in Indiana. Now they're on the application. We're able to get and see their data. So that's pretty huge. So I'm going to go into my demo here. I am glad that we figured out technology so that we could do this. So this is the in-jail application. There it goes. And I know this is really small. I will increase the size on the screen when I can. So for CJIS compliance, all of this data is scrambled. This is jail data that you're seeing up here displayed on the screen, but it's all scrambled, so we're going to talk about ABC Bus, our first inmate here on this screen. So what this screen is telling us is that here is a list of everyone that is currently in my jail, in my local jail. And we surface that highest charge or that highest degree. So over here, I can see that this person came in the date that they were booked in. I can see where they're housed, and I can see what their highest charge is. I can also download this view if I need to share this with someone else and say, here is what my current population is today. Here are their highest charges. From this screen, I'm able to see that. I hope I don't close it. Oh, I did. I apologize, I closed the wrong screen. Get back into it. There we go. Okay, I'm back. Let's go back into our current inmates. So we were on current inmates. Okay. This screen shows, again, Mr. ABC Bus. This shows his length of stay. I know that he's been in my jail for 274 days, and now I can see the court case is tied directly to that inmate. So I can tell from the time that he came into jail, he came in on an outright arrest. The case was assigned a court case. I can see that what his charges were from the time the arrest decision, the officer's arrest decision. I can see the court status, and as it flows through the system, we connect to the Odyssey application. And so that data, as it's updated in Odyssey, it comes back in as these case charges. So now if anything is added or changed, the jail has that flow back into their jail management system. Same thing with court dates. If a court date is set by the court, that's going to flow back into the application in jail, so that now I can say, okay, I have all of these people that I need to be sure that I get to court today. Also, sentencing information. I've got a clear picture of, again, okay, he was booked on July 18th, 2025. He was sentenced on April 1st, 2026. So the application gives that full picture of what happened, as well as bonds. One of the things that the users that we have been discussing around bond information is bond source data within the application, and that may be something that this group is interested in, is how did that bond get set, how was that established, whether it was a local rule decision, a judge's decision. The jails want it so that if I accidentally put extra zeros in somewhere, I can go back and look at to make that correction. So that's improving that data quality. The other thing I want to show you, to protect that fidelity and make sure that we're standardizing and everyone is using the same thing. First of all, I want to introduce you to Lieutenant Cuffey. So AI is being talked about all over the place, right? So one of the things that we added for our users is Lieutenant Cuffey. He is an AI chat bot. He is not an open source AI chat bot. Okay, so he's literally responding to what the in-jail team has taught him. He went to school and he's graduating and he's still learning, but we put him back through school. And so he doesn't make any type of legal decisions. He's not going to advise on policy, but he is going to advise the officer while they're working and in jail, a definition, a data point, and how to manage the application. If I go in here and I just ask him how to update the bond, he's going to come back and ask me a question. This is probably similar to other chatbots that you have seen. I just want to change an amount. We don't want the jailer stuck in a step or confused. We want them to know what data points we are trying to capture. So Lieutenant Cuffey, we had to give him a little bit of rank too, so he's got a little bit of, clout there. But he is going to come back and he's going to walk them through. He's going to say, go to this field, enter this data point. We want you to capture that in this fashion. But it's not like the other AI where if you ask him what's for lunch today, he'll tell you to go back. I can't answer that type of thing. But we're getting positive feedback. This also allows us, the NGL team, to monitor what are the pressure points or what are the pain points for our jail staff. We monitor these questions that we receive, and then we're able to go back and say, we need to add additional training, or we need to add information because the jails are really struggling on how to do X, Y, and Z. We want to get them consistently doing the same thing throughout the entire application. So go in here to Mr. Jeffrey. The other thing that we are doing, so here, that why, as I mentioned earlier, because we're looking at the reason, the entire picture. The person comes into the jail, and he's standing there in the Sally Port, and the officer says, here, jail, I want you to book this person in. We've added the why. And so we want to, again, make sure we're consistently saying everything apples to apples in these data points. So is this person a transfer that has to go back to another county? He cannot be released anywhere else. We're grouping these together by either law enforcement action, court-related custody, county, state holding authorities, local sentence or convictions, or a federal holding authority. Why is this person being brought into jail? The jail can select multiples of these, and because oftentimes it may be, I may have stopped this person on a traffic stop, and I'm going to initiate an outright arrest there, but he could also have additional warrants or additional holds for various other things. So they can select all of those. We're also adding tooltips, things in the application that the jail can click on, and it's going to give them, this is what we want you to capture. This is a criminal warrant including violation warrant subtypes. So your failures to appear, your violation of community transition, your violation of pretrial services. That gives them a clear roadmap of where to go. Also, so if I transfer someone, so this is in development, again, something else that we're looking for. If I transfer, I want to be able to transfer my inmate, as I mentioned, from my county. I'll just use Hendricks and Marion as an example. I want to transfer me from Hendricks County over to Marion County. When I set this toggle, one of the big things is we want to make sure that I come back to my county. I may still have charges. Hendricks may borrow me, or Marion may borrow me for a court case, but you want to make sure that I come back and satisfy whatever charges I have at Hendricks County. So when they initiate this transfer, it's going to set a release permission that when the jail tries to release Megan in Marion County, it's going to say, whoa, wait a minute, you can't do this. She has to go back to the county that you got her from. So that's a really nice thing. And to build on that, we're also working with all of our working groups to say, what data do you want to transfer between each other to make that booking process easier? There's a lot of things that happen in jails as far as managing inmates that we want to be sure we share that data. It's critical classification. It's really important for me to know how a person was classified in another jail when I accept them. So part of that transfer and that sharing of data is really where we are focusing on making sure that we're all using the same terminology and that we're all doing the process in a similar fashion. I gotta find my download again here too. Because what we're able to do, there we go. So we'll look at Mr. ABC Bus's detention report. So here's the foundation that we're working towards. So this detention report by all stays, you guys, can they see that okay? Where'd it go? There we go, now you can see it. Okay. So the detention report by all stays, this will show the jail. As you can see, we can see for this stay, this booking, on this date, for these cases, he was here for 274 days. He had a sentence. Here's the date range of his sentence. Here are the cases. that were related to that stay. And as they transfer back and forth, down here at the bottom, the release information, if I'm given a furlough, if I'm temporarily released to another agency, to another hospital, we can now see where these individuals are going, how long they were there. It will show that information on the bottom of this detention report. So every stay, every booking, we now have the ability to see, you know, he was here for 6 days on this particular charge or this particular stay. And that, again, is working towards the ability to look at that credit time. Those who calculate credit time at the jail used to have to try to figure out when to release people. It's a process, right? So we are really wanting to make improvements in this area so that you can clearly see, and maybe hopefully someday this was applied to this credit time was applied to this case. But this gives you that big picture. So this is our reporting and the things that, you know, again, are really important to all justice partners, not just the jails. This is data points that we want everyone to be able to see. The other big thing is our reporting. As we continue with development, as our working group identifies, hey, we should be tracking this detail or this information, we go back to the drawing board with our reports. And so these are the reports that our jails are using and sharing with their judges, with other justice partners. Some of these go to a national level, some of these are at the state level for our state jail inspectors. But as you can see, we've got Excel reports and PDF reports on bonds, fines, and costs. We're tracking all of those data points. Bookings by highest charge. This is really hard for you guys to see. Does that make it easier? There you go. That's a little bit better. Bookings by date and highest charge. If I just want to know who is in my jail on misdemeanors only, offense level, who's here, what date range, we have the capability of generating these reports. We just need to know the purpose of the report, the definition, and what we're looking for. And we continue to work on this. It's just, as each county joins, we identify those needs and we get those out. We have to send those out CJIS compliant, so they're encrypted. We're looking at different methodology. Our Justice Partners portal, we're also developing that. Multi-factor authentication into that app to be able to have access to some of this reporting. And keep that moving. Then lastly, as I mentioned, we started this project with the intention of improving to the best of our ability those criminal history records back at the Indiana State Police. And so all of this work, when I'm at the jail and I get booked in, now I know why, I know what I'm being charged with, I'm connected to my court case, I fingerprint this person. That fingerprint transaction control number is what is associated with that arrest charge. That's what goes through the process over to the Indiana State Police and identifies that criminal history record so that the judge at case disposition is able to then connect that disposition back to the Indiana State Police. Here in this view, this has been huge. Now the jails have a quick, easy way to go in and see if that fingerprint record was rejected by the Indiana State Police. If it is rejected, they can come back in and they can work this view. They can see if I'm still waiting for a response from the Indiana State Police. And then our sheriffs, kudos to our sheriffs, said, I want to know when my staff is not collecting prints. And so they have a place to come work those, recollect those. If that person has been released from the jail, while there's no statutory requirement that explicitly says the jail shall notify the court on a rejected fingerprint, all of our sheriffs unanimously said, we want to make that notification. So we're working on building that into the application. Sometimes when a person gets arrested, they may be a book-in and a direct bond out. So it can take a little time to get those fingerprint responses back, depending upon the print quality and how long it takes to get through that interface. If that person is no longer in jail, we want the court to know we don't have a fingerprint. We're not going to be able to get this back to Chris to keep that criminal history repository information up to date, because that's really what's critical. That's critical For public safety, that's critical for our law enforcement officers who need to see that data when they're out or when you're hiring someone. You know, again, if I'm hiring someone, I really need the full picture of their criminal history. So that is the primary focus of our work, is how can we make sure we're collecting these data points and getting this information back to where it needs to go. How am I good on time? Okay, well, I think I have gone through my presentation.
Well, Megan, you got through that quicker than I was expected, but there was a lot there. It was really well done. I also neglected to mention that joining Megan is Lisa Thompson, also from our tech team, and I really just can't say enough about how important they are to the development of this technology that really improves our ability to communicate with and understand the work that's being done at the county level, and it also helps our county partners ensure that they're able to meet their public safety responsibilities more effectively. So appreciate the report and greatly appreciate the work that you're all doing. So thank you for being here. Lot there, yeah, I see one question already. Steve, please.
And I don't know if this is a dumb question. Are you allowed to keep track of medical health treatment data, like mental health treatment data, or is that protected and confidential?
Some of that data absolutely is protected and confidential. Most of our jails use a medical vendor, and that information is stored outside of the application. However, they do add certain touch points, again, data points for that, around maybe I'm taking the person to off-site visits for treatment, things like that. So we do understand that there is some HIPAA limitations to what we can put in the application, but for the jails themselves, we're adding it's a national tool. We're working with Brittany over there. A national tool that allows the jails to do some screening for mental health. And then, of course, working with counties that are doing the new pilot AOT program. So releasing out to tracking, hey, they came into the jail, they were released to an alternative outpatient treatment program. I hope I said the acronym right, Brittany. And then again, we're going to have that metrics to, did they come back? You know, was this another utilization of the resources? So there are things in the application that absolutely can track that.
So if JRAC or legislators wanted to try to identify percentages of people with mental health or substance use or various kinds of treatment or residential needs, there might be a way to do an end run to get to some of those numbers.
Yeah, we might be able to get to some of those data points. They definitely can track their homeless population. So if a person is in jail, they're homeless, we can indicate that in the application. So there might be certain data pieces without violating any type of medical or HIPAA that you could get from the application.
Yeah, please, Angela.
Does in-jail replace or integrate with the current county's CAD system or police system that they use now?
Sure, absolutely. Yes, we integrate with their RMS vendors. We are working with about 4 or 5 different vendors currently. What we replace, they continue using RMS and CAD. They keep with that. We're not in that business, but in-jail replaces the jail management piece of that. So I can say their names, but the vendors. She's with Jocelyn. Okay. But can I say the vendor names? I can. The vendors that we're currently working with, yes, we can get that integration, and most of our jails want that. So that's what we're working on with them. So if they've got one that we haven't worked with, I always say, if you're interested or think that you want to move to the application, have a conversation with me. Let me know who your current vendors are so that we can make sure they're in the pipeline or that we're opening up discussions with them about that integration.
Megan, there was also a question down here regarding some of the acronyms that you'd used. Would you just clarify, if you would, please, CAD, RMS?
Oh, computer-aided dispatch. So records management system. Most of our law enforcement agencies, our sheriff's departments, use the records management system, which is the RMS piece of it. That data comes from the computer-aided dispatch side or the CAD side. Think of the CAD side as when you pick up the phone and you call for help. That's the dispatcher who creates that record. when that record is created in CAD, that transfers over to the records management system, RMS piece of the officer in the car. So what we do is we take the officer in the car's data information and we pull that into in jail. And so that provides that, kind of closes that loop and provides demographic information, prevents that duplicative entry where maybe at the jail I misspell his name and now I've got a different record in my RMS and my CAD than I do in my in jail application.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Are there any other questions for Megan? Chris, please.
Justice. Megan, this is exciting progress. Looking at the map of participating counties, I don't think I saw Vanderburgh, Lake, Allen. I couldn't tell if they're in the pipeline. Is there direct outreach to some of those kind of high population, high volume counties? Are there particular obstacles for those counties, or in general, what do obstacles look like for counties to come on?
Sure, absolutely. I just had a conversation with Lake County yesterday. So we have spoken with Vanderburgh. Again, there's differing reasons with the counties to why they want to or are able to move right now. The larger counties, Marion County is scheduled to go live on the application in November of 2026. That's our target date. That is a very large county. So some of the obstacles with them, one of the pieces that they have to have is their interface with their RMS CAD vendor. And so, again, we're working with them, but it's how quickly can they move. Some of the larger counties also have other homegrown things that they've created, homegrown processes, things that work well in their county with their judges and their staff that we don't want to break. So if we have to go back and do additional development based on what those needs are, that can be sometimes just something that slows progress. But we are committed to trying to eliminate as many obstacles as we can. Most of the time when they come in and they look at the application or they start using it, it kind of eliminates those. When they see the capability, there's so much interfacing done in the application that they're like, oh, I don't need to pay for that anymore. I don't need to do that anymore. I don't, those types of things.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Because Porter County's one of the issues that you have is there's so many different vendors out there, and a lot of them are so hard to communicate with. And like we have been in a 3 to 4 year transition from our JMS, which is Jail Management System, RMS, CAD system. We've revamped the entire county wide. And I was asking my jail commander, where are we with this? Because I don't like not being up there, right? And I said, but we just, when we went from Tiburon to Flex, getting that data transfer, we went through 8 months of data transfer just to get it switched over. So it's very complex, especially as all the different sheriff's offices around the state are converting from different vendors. So it is timely, and it's quite a project for you guys.
Yeah,
so
it's a process.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I can add, first of all, Justice, we got the right architect with Megan's back, and that is why I think this project has moved so seamlessly. And to the sheriff's point, I know when we started some of the jail initiatives, and it'll be so great when we have real-time jail data. It's something we've never been able to get to. Other states can't get there. But you have to look at how did a county get where they're at when they're actually either out shopping for a CAD or a records management system. And at the time over the history, there was no jail management systems from those companies, so they might have 2 systems that are the same, but they go off and they get another company. And then I know over the years too, part of the issue is when we're doing initiatives like this, the vendors all of a sudden want to kind of, you're going to go away from me and stuff like that. So that's the discussion really I've always looked at is to the sheriff or whoever's in charge of that office, they need to understand this is your decision and it's the best decision. So sometimes that's part of the delay, but I can't say enough about Megan's team. And I know we myself or Bill will jump on the calls, but man, they've done a great job because I think it initially started out with about 4 counties. And the one county that actually has a keyboard, I remember that 3 or 4 years ago, he says, it's not paper and pen. I actually have a keyboard now. And this was huge for them. And it also gave them a lot of positive things as far as culture in the office too. So thank you guys for what you're doing.
That's excellent points. Any other questions for Megan? Just the context, Steve, you're right. Sort of the big example of all of this was when we developed the statewide case management system. I say we, I mean Mary Depre and her team with Core Tech, years, decades really, to roll it out in its entirety. And my county was one of the late converters. It joined right after I joined the Supreme Court. But it's important, I think, to just kind of look structurally that it's difficult for us to make a statewide decision because our judicial branch is non-unified. It's largely county-based, so we really rely on counties seeing the merits in these deliverables and then asking for help. But I also think it's important for us, and I'm always thankful when our legislative partners join us, that when we see a tool deploy and develop, and it really does have as much promise as I think this probably does, that they can consider whether or not to develop it and deploy it on a more accelerated basis. I think our case management system has proved very, very beneficial, very successful, and I have little doubt that this is going to do the same thing. And Chris had asked a question earlier about some of the bigger counties coming on. I would just say to Chris and all of our members, if you have a particular member of your constituency that's really interested in jumping to the front of the line with some of this, we'd love to have a discussion with you and bring that county's team together and kind of have a conversation about how they might work into something like this. That's kind of the beauty of our structure, is that everybody's got an equal seat at the table because we all our constituents share some responsibility in providing public safety, connecting to treatment at the local level, so that we're not overusing our big shared state-funded resources like the Department of Corrections or DMHA if there's a more effective county-based solution and more cost-effective also county-based solution available. But again, kudos, it really is. This has been lightning fast in comparison to some other projects, and so big credit to Megan, to Lisa, and everyone on the tech team.
Can I make one more comment for everyone to think about? Really, in the last 5 years, as this has been going on, I can tell you we have well over 20 jail management systems. And as this has developed, now the list is getting smaller and smaller, which is going to help integration and these projects come together. So I don't think we'll ever get to one unified system, but I think what we'll get to is kind of a unified system of maybe, I think, 8 or less jail management systems. And it's so important to encourage the larger counties to come on, because that's the data that we miss a lot of times in making the right policy decisions.
I agree. Yeah. Excellent point. Well, I think you had a lot of interest, Megan, so thank you. Thank you. No, please, Ashley.
Do you have a cost estimate savings for counties that do come on board, that maybe those vendors are charging them extra for that jail management piece, that they would have a cost savings benefit that we could utilize and share with our county?
I don't have anything like that. I can reach out and ask my jails. That's really not something that we've focused on, but we could absolutely ask for that data if they have it.
I think that would be really good leverage for the local JRACs to be able to use when discussing the options and the different tools that the Sheriff's Department uses. If a sheriff is hesitant to come on board, I think that's just one piece the local county could really benefit from.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good point, Ashley. Thank you. So first of two presentations. Oh, please go ahead. Did you have something else, Megan? Yeah, Lisa, I'm sorry.
I was just going to comment. Steve, do you remember for JRAC years ago, we did a snapshot study of the jails?
Yes.
We asked them to fill out a survey of their current jail population for a single day, just so we could get some sort of perspective of who's in jail and for what reason. It took a while to get those responses, but one of the data points we collected was about how much are you spending in maintenance fees on those applications. So we do have a report. I'm trying to get it to download, but it's a statewide number. I don't know, Ashley, if that would be helpful to you. But at the time, annual costs of jail management systems were totaling over $1.6 million across the state for all of those counties.
That is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. It's an excellent point. Oh, please, yes, David.
And a question as
software and the sheriff could choose who he wants to choose, are you sending out any recommendations to say, as you update your software, can you add this data point so that there's better integration with in jail, or is that possible?
Yeah, we do not. That's really the responsibility of the sheriff to communicate those data points that they want their vendors collecting.
I just didn't know if that was something that, because again, software, every 3 to 5 years, usually they let vendors do a major rewrite, and if they knew what they needed to do to integrate with this system, that could help the data get collected quicker. Right?
From the CADs. I will say that all of the RMS and CAD vendors that we have worked with have been extremely helpful to us. So really, I think as we go, we've seen from the techie court side, we see data points that we think we could share out of in-jail back to help that patrol officer. So we have had that conversation about two-way data exchange and data points, yes. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Good question. We're going to hear next from DMHA, but before they get into their presentation, we're just going to break for 5 minutes. So if you need, if you're new, if you need restrooms, are right around the corner. And we are at 10. Okay, thank you. So we're back on live. And next on our agenda, we have a presentation from our partners at DMHA. As I mentioned, Director Sarah Sailors is at my left, and she's joined today from Jordan Stover from FSSA's Office of General Counsel. And they've joined us today to present on the important issue of competency and how we move forward as a system, continuing the conversation that we had and we heard from Brittany in the Office of Behavioral Health during our February meeting. So Sarah, Jordan, welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much. We are excited to be here to talk a little bit about our competency crisis that we think is plaguing us right now in the state of Indiana. DMHA, we have the operation authority over our 6 state psychiatric hospitals. So within that network, we have 5 hospitals that serve the adult population. Those 5 hospitals have 726 beds for adults. We have a dual mandate in the state of Indiana, right? It's one system, but 2 very distinct jobs that we have. So one, you'll see, is to treat individuals with mental illness. And I think that's the side of the pendulum where everybody kind of thinks about the state psychiatric hospitals. And so in order to provide those services to those individuals, there is a civil commitment process, right, where an individual needs to either be dangerous or gravely disabled. And then the other side of the system is we have a mandate to restore individuals in order to have that forensic pathway so that they can really stand trial for the crimes that they are accused of committing. So when an individual has an underlying mental illness, which when you think about the civil commitment pathway, that mental illness can also include intellectual disabilities, alcoholism, and addiction to narcotics or dangerous drugs. And as I said, you have to have, also you have to be found to be either dangerous to yourself or others, right? Or gravely disabled. Which means that you really don't have the ability to meet your basic needs independently, and you need assistance to function and can't do that on an independent basis. So I think the important thing to know about our civil commitments is these are really the seriously mentally ill, those who are dangerous in our communities, right? So these are the individuals who are going to need long-term psychiatric care. And then as you think about our definition for the population that is incompetent to stand trial, these really are defendants who need to be restored in order to be able to help aid in their defense, and that's the only trigger for that forensic order. So one of the challenges that we have, I think, is a misunderstanding of what the competency order really means, right? And so we are not treating the underlying mental illness, and so I think there's some misconceptions about that. When these individuals are sent to the hospital, we really are just charged with restoring their competence. We may manage their mental illness while they're with us through medications and those kind of things, but this is not long-term treatment. We are not curing their illness, right? And then they are sent back to the jails in order to then proceed with those criminal charges. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this population is that they are not eligible. During this time frame, their Medicaid is suspended, right? So the cost to the state is all state appropriation. It costs us around $1,000 per day to treat an individual at the state hospital or to restore them to competency. When we talk about the ICST population, on average, they spend about 100 days with us in our hospitals. So an average cost per patient is around $100,000. With the number of ICST orders we receive, we are predicting that for state fiscal year 26, we will spend about $80 million on this population. Again, all state appropriated funds. So why are we calling this a crisis? We have seen, this is data that shows you the last 12 years of the increase in our referrals and how that surge is happening. So since 2013 through 2025, we've seen a 477% increase in the number of ICST referrals that we have received. The end of calendar year 25, we had over 709 individuals on competency orders, and we are on track this year to surpass that. We'll probably have over 800 this year. And so that is where I will pass it over to Jordan to continue to talk a little bit more about the current state.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Jordan Stover. I'm the General Counsel at FSSA. I've been here for about a year. I got involved in this when I saw that parabolic rise. I saw that last chart there and the number of admissions that we have. I've been a former prosecutor. I've been counsel with the state police. Ran the regulatory shop over the Department of Health, so oversaw hospitals. So I've touched a little bit of these areas, and the crisis that we're getting into, I think, can be illustrated best by this chart that you're seeing right here on the screen. On the left, that is our current split of forensic versus civil population. So we're currently 70% forensic and 30% civil commitment. Our current admissions are 86% forensic and 13% civil. And as that parabolic rise continues over time, what we're going to see is eventually the state hospital network will only serve forensic patients. There will be no treatment available for people that have serious mental illness, that are dangerous to our communities, that will all of the capacity that we have will be completely consumed on the forensic side. And that is not a situation that we as the state hospitals want to be in. It's also not a situation that I think anybody's community wants to be in. And it's really the reason why we are here today. There are a plethora of problems with that, right? As I just said, the dangerous and the gravely disabled go untreated because there is no way to get them into the state hospitals. Two, we have long-staying forensic patients. We have a ton of people that go in on a forensic commitment who are effectively, because of their conditions, it may be that they have developmental disabilities or other things, they are completely unrestorable. So they will sit in a forensic, in our state hospitals on a forensic hold until their maximum sentence on whatever their underlying criminal charge is. We have roughly 200 patients that have been at the state hospitals for over 180 days. We have roughly 100 patients that have been at the state hospital who are discharge ready and have no discharge in sight. We have effectively hit maximum benefit, as we call it, where there's nothing more we can do, and yet there is no path to have them discharged from the state hospitals. So that population will sit with us, costing us $1,000 a day in perpetuity until we hit maximum sentence date on their criminal charges. Importantly, and I realize it's kind of hard to see from distance here, but 17% of our ICST population will return to us on another ICST commitment within 3 years. And that's really a remarkable number when you think about it. It probably undershoots the reality of it, because if you think about, if you're restored, you go back many people are being sentenced for their underlying criminal crimes. If those sentences are longer than 3 years, you can't recidivate. And so we're only capturing the population likely that are committing misdemeanors, level 6, level 5s, assuming, their sentences are somewhere near the advisory. So it's a large number, and it creates a significant problem. Waitlist times are going to continue to increase. Our current waitlist time, if you have a ICST commitment, is about 30 days. On the civil side, because we have to prioritize the forensic community, our waitlist times approach about 90 days. So once a judge has ordered someone that they believe state hospital treatment is the least restrictive placement that they can be, it takes us 9 days to get somebody into a state hospital for that treatment. And the result of all of this, right, is no upstream intervention. We can't get treatment to people before they hit the criminal justice system, where they need that treatment up front, and it may avoid that criminal justice track. Right now, we just create a cycle, because our treatment of someone that is ICST and that we are sending back to the courts ends at discharge. There's no long-term planning. There's no long-term medication management. We are returning them to the courts, and our hands are off at that stage. This creates a plethora of problems. We're not up there, but I mean, just to be upfront and frank, right? FSSA's problem is we're only going to end up treating forensic patients, and the cost is enormous, and it's one that is not sustainable. But what will make this problem very difficult for all of us to manage together, hopefully, is that everybody, including most of the stakeholders in this room, and I want to thank Brittany for telling me to come present here today, because I was listing out all of the groups that I thought that we needed to catch, and she went, yeah, that's just all JRAC. You should just come and present there. So thank you. Prosecutors have got to protect their community, right? If somebody looks dangerous, right, we can't just be letting those people out without some type of backstop. If you're a public defender, you're not taking someone to trial you don't believe is competent. If you're a judge, you don't have a lot of options under the law, and you've got to follow the law. If you're a sheriff, you're worried about, just having people sit in your jails, right? And what the cost of that is, waiting for hospital beds. If you're a treatment provider, you want to know that you're going to get paid, and treatment has got to be available in your community. So everybody is going to have a problem here, and none of these things are going to intersect perfectly. And I think the thing is, as we go down the road, is that perfect cannot be the enemy of good. Whatever solution we come to, it's going to be hopefully a 75-80% solution for everybody. We're never going to hit a 100% solution. If all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. Our current system is really twofold, and that is, at one hand, prosecutors and some others have discretion, right? Police have some discretion on when to arrest, when to take people to our crisis centers. Prosecutors have some discretion in charging. But other than that, it is a ICST order that commits someone to DMHA for restoration. And that is the only path once that ICST order is made. So what we want to kind of present today is a menu of options. None of these are necessarily better than the others, but we kind of look at this in three buckets. One is, what things can we do without legislation? What things are kind of our low-hanging fruit that we can do with legislation? What are the things that we're going to have some much longer-term arguments about, right, with all the stakeholders in this room, about that might take 2, 3, 4 years? But we have to start somewhere. And sometimes I think just getting going is half the problem. Let's find some low-hanging fruit and do it, and then we can deal with the thornier issues as we go. On the non-legislative side, FSSA is doing a couple things on our own, right? We're looking at jail-based restoration and how we can make that work. We can have contracts that essentially delegate our restoration authority to private entities, so we have some of that. We can expand, and this has mostly been a court-initiated thing. The current AOT programs that are out there, that's on the civil commitment side, but I think has great promise. As we'll see, some other states have done that. I think, as you know, Some other states have done that to great effect in reducing their hospital populations and their inpatient stays. But really, we get into the legislative side and start talking about what we can do to reduce this population, or at least divert them to better tracks that get people help that they need and hopefully don't return them consistently to the criminal justice system. First, limiting hospital admissions, state hospital admissions for misdemeanors is, from my perspective, seemingly the low-hanging fruit. If you look at the timeline for someone who is charged with a misdemeanor, who is incompetent to stand trial, the first couple phases of that, you have their initial hearing. You have a request from a defense attorney for a competency evaluation. You actually have that evaluation take place, and then you actually have the detention order that commits them to DMHA. On average, that's probably 180 days, maybe longer, in some counties where access to practitioners is difficult. Then you get 30 days that you got to wait for us to actually admit them into a state hospital. And if the average restore time for somebody is approximately 100 days, you're at about 330 days out of a maximum 365-day sentence. So our restoration efforts in that, right, assuming all of that runs, aren't really doing much to further justice, right? Because these people are, whether you could get a trial date, right, if you're a prosecutor and you said, I need a trial date now, in most counties that means you're already past that deadline, and these cases are going to be dismissed, assuming that they're on bail, or they're being held and they're not out on bail. We already do this in some senses, right, with people that have Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. There is a diversionary track there that allows dismissal that we're going to talk a little more about. Allowing defendants to opt in to treatment, right? If we had some type of jail-based triage system where we recognized either up front or based on someone's previous history of mental health or previous ICST commitments that, hey, this person might have some competency issues, and we were able to triage that up front and allow them in misdemeanor, perhaps nonviolent, low-level felony cases, to opt in to mental health, outpatient mental health treatment, it's probably a much better path both on a treatment track, right, and a future criminal justice intervention track to have them get into treatment. And the backstop is the criminal case still pens. So if somebody decides, I don't want to do this treatment anymore, the criminal case is still there, right? And we can still have admission to the state hospital as that backstop without just saying we're going to dismiss this case up front and we hope the outpatient treatment works. So we have options there. I think I bumped my slide too fast, but after a person is found to be incompetent to stand trial, many states now, for people that are nonviolent, and that's usually determined by the court, allows courts to order outpatient restoration. And we think that's a great option that judges simply don't have right now, and would have to be something we would have to amend into statute and give judges the discretion to say, you've committed misdemeanor trespass, the state hospital is probably not the best place for your restoration. We're going to try outpatient treatment. If it doesn't work, the state hospital is still there as that backstop.
If I could, really fast.
Sure.
So if that were to happen, since these are legislative goals, who would be funding that third piece?
So a lot of moving parts there, but the great part is that if you're in outpatient treatment, you're on Medicaid as an example, Medicaid still pays. So the providers are getting paid, and it's being paid out of something that for a lot of our population is going to be the expansion population, paid at 90% federal government and 10% state government. So you see a substantial reduction in costs. You see better treatment because it's actual treatment as opposed to just competency restoration. And we get out of that pipeline where there's only one single path.
Just a note about that. I
Sure.
do worry about that with the upcoming Medicaid changes. We are going to see significant people fall off, and I think this population is at high risk for that. So I do worry about relying on Medicaid for that. I appreciate that question. Just for the state to look at something. It is cheaper to do community-based care, right? We all know that.
Yep.
Let's pay for that so that we can fix the issue.
Yeah, and our hope is, right, that with the upcoming changes, right, that are going to implement work requirements, I mean, we expect a population decline in the expansion population. But the hope is that our people that are generally going to be in this, you know, we're questioning their competency, are not usually going to be kind of the healthy 22-year-old that's going to be subject to those work requirements. We think a lot of that's going to fall into that medically frail population. And so if that stays, right, and FSSA gets that right, we think a lot of these people are going to fall there and they'll still be covered. We're going to have to work through these issues in the next 6, 8, 12 months because it's an undertaking. But that's the hope. There's going to be edge cases, and we know that. One of the things is, you know, requiring an actual hearing. A lot of times we get admissions where a doctor has gone and done an interview of a defendant, and the defendant just says, "I'm not talking to you." And so the doctor says, "Well, based on what his defense attorney said, he might not be competent, and we're going to admit." And all of that is done sometimes without a hearing. And so we think it would be a good requirement to say a judge who actually does, you know, have authority to put somebody under oath and ask some questions, you know, those questions should be asked. The judge should be assessing those defendants to say what's going on, especially if that person is refusing to speak with a court-ordered competency evaluator. We do need a path to address people that are not ever going to be restored. We have people that are committing low-level crimes, especially that have developmental disabilities, that have intellectual disabilities, that will never, ever be restored to competency. And we can tell in a lot of those cases, because of their diagnosis, that up front. And, you know, in our view, it doesn't serve anyone's real goal to put them in a competency restoration program when we know that it will not be valuable to them, and that when they end up being released, right, because they're going to stay with us until whatever their maximum out date is, they're going to get back into the community, they will not have had any real treatment, and that cycle will continue. One thing, just more on the FSSA side of things, is state-appointed guardians. One of the problems we have right now is we have people that are discharge ready that they don't have anywhere to go. And nursing homes don't want to admit people unless they know that they have Medicaid, that various things, unless they can sign documents. And for people that have serious mental health problems, if they don't have a guardian, they will just sit with us for a long period of time.
So when you say you have, you have so many questions I've not asked.
Oh, go for it.
But when you say that 100 people approximately are just sitting, and if you were to implement that kind of alternative where you were successful in getting those people out of that, what percentage of your capacity, how many beds are you going to have? What percentage of your capacity is that 100 people?
So
approximately.
Current bed count's
726.
726. So it's opening up a significant amount of capacity for people that we're retaining, really just because we can't place them anywhere, and we will not discharge them to homelessness. So other states have taken action. You will notice that, you know, just understanding that we are in a Republican state, and so, you know, we have to look at things that we want to pass through the legislators through that lens. These are all initiatives that have taken place in Republican-led states, right? In Florida, civil commitment or other interventions for misdemeanors. They have a diversion program for felonies. In Texas, in Missouri, judges may now explicitly order outpatient-only treatment for patients/defendants that they believe are not dangerous, again with the coercive power of the court behind them to go to a higher level of control and inpatient admission if necessary. In Alabama, their AOT on the criminal side, not just the civil side, saw a 75% reduction in psych hospital admissions after these programs in a couple different counties took place. So just substantial reductions in the population that are going and being served from an inpatient perspective. And in Kentucky, their statewide AOT cut monthly hospitalizations by 67%. These are measures that should be on all of our radar on how to address this problem, both for the sake of not putting people in an inpatient setting if they don't need it, but also getting them treated treatment that they need as opposed to just a program where we ask them if they understand what's going on. So how do we move forward? I mean, FSSA is determined to move, and that's why we're presenting here. We want this group's help, and I know we've met with a couple of you. We'll hope to meet with all of you moving forward. At the end of the day, this isn't about admissions or capacity or cost. It's whether we are willing to respond to these people that have serious mental illnesses in our community and not eat up our entire capacity on this forensic issue. We have got to get to the root, which is treatment of the underlying problem, and that will alleviate eventually the number of admissions that we have based on ICST orders. And if we're not willing to do that, right, then we're just managing a life cycle here that will continue in perpetuity. So we need to move forward. You know, we plan to do it engaged with all of you. I know everybody's got a divergent set of concerns and worries and best case and worst case scenarios. Again, you know, we're looking to find that 80% solution. What can we do where 80% of everybody buys into it, right, that makes the system substantially better for the people that need help? And that's what we're committed to doing moving forward.
Derek.
Thanks. You didn't have to look at me to know. So if we could work to get this distributed to everybody, this presentation, that'd be very helpful because you do have a framework in there and it'd be helpful for us to all be able to have that easy access, so I'd appreciate that if we could.
Sure.
And second of all, I think that regardless of what side of the equation you sit on here, from police to treatment providers and everybody in between, I think we'd all agree that the process has not been good for a long time. There's been a lot of flaws. And so to the extent I hate a crisis, it sometimes takes a crisis for you to actually implement change. And I think this is actually forcing everybody to acknowledge that there's a problem here and that there have been huge gaps for a long time. Now we have even bigger, wider gaps that we haven't necessarily seen. So to the extent I think you'll get everybody's support, at least on some of these changes, I think you'll have it. I don't know anybody that would say the system is great and it's been great for a long time. So I just wanted to say that in advance to everyone here. So I appreciate the effort, and to the extent we can be supportive, we will be.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's well said, Derek. Steve, please, yes.
I agree. I think this is a great start. It's going to be controversial, obviously, both in Indiana and nationally. It'll take all of us to try to respond to that, but I think we're very supportive of this direction and would want to work with you to do that. Do you anticipate, I know this isn't where you're going, but do you anticipate the increased capacity that you will now have for treatment in the state hospitals to be something that we use and try to maximize for inpatient mental health needs for SMI? I think it's, we're saying there's a better way to do it and we can save money doing it, but are we also saying that we're going to continue to fund some number of beds in the state hospitals, maybe the current level or more or less, to provide appropriate inpatient treatment for those people that need it? Are we saying that as well?
Yes, I mean, we know that there are patients out there that need that level of care, right? That's not going away.
Right.
We have a wait list now, right?
Right. Because I think that's another selling point to this idea, that not only are we serving people more appropriately that shouldn't be served there, but it also enables us to serve people more appropriate that do
Yes.
need to be there.
Yes, absolutely.
Zoe, please.
Jordan, do you have a breakdown of how many of the competencies are misdemeanors? I remember that someone told me that number. It's probably Becky or Katrina, but it was startling.
We had it in a previous presentation. I want to say F6s and misdemeanors made up 50% plus of all admissions. I think it was higher than that. I'm using that as kind of a low shot number. I'll try to look it up. But it was
I'll
a
try to look that up
substantial,
while
a
you're-
substantial portion.
Steve.
Yeah, a couple questions. check your calendars for May 12th and 13th. We have legal updates. I'd love to have you guys present to our sheriffs on this topic. Maybe it's going to be in jail also.
Yeah.
And then, second of all, a couple of years ago, it was suggested we had a behavioral health, a mental health report, and in there it talked about Indiana adopting 1115 medical waiver, where some costs prior release, 90 days, can be covered back into Medicaid. We'd love to have those conversations to see how maybe that can assist on some of this stuff, because it kind of stopped. I know there's about 22 states that have done that legislatively. I think it could be a way to go. The other thing is we had a presentation at a regional meeting, and the sheriffs I sent out, Doug's staff, Shelby and Mark and Madison contacted me about a BJA COSO grant where we're looking for 6 to 10 jails, and it's mainly focused on, of course, opioids and things, but with that becomes behavioral and mental health. And talking to them yesterday with our sheriffs, again, they're looking for 6 to 10 jails to do pilots, but there's a lot of, the way Madison is like, we have a lot of flexibility, making sure we reach the goals, but how can we maybe pull this in? Because I love the idea of a jail-based triage system, because I think that's where we can capture a lot of this. And I go back to another conversation only the sheriff and Justice Goff got to hear from Scott County Sheriff a few weeks ago about how people come into jail in the crisis. And certainly there's a population here we can address. So how can we maybe, Doug, if you could ask Shelby, maybe how could we wrap this in there? I know it's a 3-year grant. First year is implementation, and 2 and 3 is working out the data. But it's also a very much more intensive data-driven grant, from what I understand. So I just wanted to throw that information out there. That could help you.
I'll just say, sorry, probably not, but I think there are parts and pieces of the grant that, especially around data systems and some other collaborative pieces that will be helpful to this work in those pilot sites.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris.
Jordan, thanks for presenting. You talked about, I think you recommended more competency hearings taking place. Could you talk a little more about that?
Sure. So we're talking about kind of not the initial hearing where that request for competency is made, but the follow-up hearing, right, where the actual determination is made. We have some counties that if both, or one, depending on what level of crime it is, analysis recommend admission to the state hospital and a finding of not competency, it's just granted without a hearing. But a lot of those actual documents say, I wasn't able to evaluate this person, they wouldn't talk to me, based on the brief history I know, it's very possible they're not competent to stand trial, and so we'll end up with 2 of those evaluations and they come to the state hospital. And so really what we're looking for is just kind of a little more exploratory analysis there to say, for a judge who, right, if a court-ordered, psychiatrist, walks in and said, the person says no, that's one thing, right? I think it's highly unlikely, or at least substantially less likely, that a person, if a judge is starting to ask them questions, that person's just going to be like, I'm not answering you, Judge. And so really it's just that kind of small step of saying, in every case where someone's going to be admitted, we should be having a hearing where the judge can put eyes on a person and ask some questions, especially in the cases where those reports are not fully fleshed out.
Yeah, thank you. And do you know, our ISDOs, are they entered without a hearing? Just upon filing or just upon request, are those?
I don't believe so, and I think DMHA is actually, we have had, there have been some cases where I think it's been attempted, and DMHA has pushed back. We've actually had the AG file in certain counties to say, no, you have to follow the process. You can't just, we've had a couple cases, I think, where defense attorneys have said, I believe my person is incompetent. I think with the agreement of the prosecutor, they just agreed they should be admitted without evaluation, and we push back on those, and I think that's a kind of a rare edge case.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
No, sir. Go ahead.
I did just building on that issue that Chris had brought up. One of the challenges in the competency evaluations that we haven't even talked about yet is the challenge on the front end of getting people to actually come and do the initial evaluation. And there's a limited number of people who do that. Because there's a limited number of people who do that, it's very expensive to do that as well. And that comes out of the local, that's general fund money at that point. The other thing is that then they're not particularly excited about coming to testify, and so we're going to have to pay them to do that as well. So, that's likely to probably double the cost of those evaluations if we're calling the psychiatrist, and then we're going to have to coordinate with their schedules as well to have hearings, and so I can anticipate that having a large impact in terms of timeliness, and then also in terms of cost. The other thing, as a judge, I'm not likely to ask the defendant a lot of questions about the offense that he's committed as a part of this inquiry, and if I do, I would expect Derek to jump up and object to those questions as well. So I don't know how productive. I'm not an expert in mental health, and so ultimately any determination that I make is based upon the advice of experts and not on my own expertise as well. So I don't know the utility of having those additional hearings. In the past, we've only had those hearings when we really felt that there was a necessity to have that, and so our discretion sort of informed that. But one thing is certain is that it will increase local costs for that, and I'm assuming there's not any corresponding funding going to come with that requirement. So those are my concerns.
Not surprisingly, an area of great interest. and let me just chime something in there, because it is something, it's easy for us to talk past each other, I think, with our naturally adversarial system. And I'm not exactly sure what Jordan meant in terms of the hearing format, but you'll find most of the folks at the table have been having these conversations for years, Jordan. And what I liked about your presentation, what really resonated with me, was there's probably an 80% solution, and we are at crisis level, so there's probably going to need to be something done. But one of the things we found out when we were working with part of the National Task Force to examine and improve state court response to mental illness was when somebody goes in that process, it's important to not just, you're at the hospital's problem now. And I mean, that's a natural response for the county system, because you're at capacity. Somebody goes into your jail, the sheriff has a real problem with staffing. But what we were trying to recommend to folks was, no, you actually have a status hearing periodically to see what's going on with this. And I could see some real value in that, where you would actually have the parties convene. There is a divorce, a natural separation between the competency restoration process and the guardianship process, which is exclusively civil. So if you had somebody that was actually in the hospital and they were going to get better and they were timed out, I can see real value and very little time relative to filing new criminal cases quickly after somebody came back to coming up with a plan. Maybe you get somebody appointed to go through a guardianship process, and maybe that actually is a situation where we could get increased state funding, because it would be a heck of a lot cheaper than having so many people in the jail. So what I heard was you need action. And what I can tell you, as somebody who was at the county level for the first 20 years of my career, what you need when somebody goes in the criminal justice system is you need to connect them to treatment. And there's nobody in the criminal justice system that's traditionally had that role. It's something that, again, is completely separate. So if somebody presents and you're defending them and they're off, they're presenting in a way that makes you concerned about their mental illness, a natural knee-jerk reaction oftentimes is to start that competency process, and then you're kind of off to the races. And it is some benefit to the counties, quite frankly, to get them into your custody, because then all of your very limited resources, which are also increasingly limited, are being taxed by trying to find a good local placement. So all that to say, that I really appreciate being here, Jordan, and this is not something we're going to get resolved, obviously, today, but at the last meeting in February, I think what Brittany was able to share with you was there was expressed a real appetite to creating a legislative work group within JRAC, because you've got everybody that's interested at both the state and local levels at the table to really take a deeper dive into this and find out what we could do to come up with that 80% solution that you mentioned. So we are running up on time today, and I don't want to stifle discussion because it's an important one, but I do want to say that I'd like to take some steps to create that venue so that we could have a more comprehensive discussion and see if we can get something accomplished. Thank you both, and if we're at a point to do that, I would like to just go ahead and touch on our next agenda item. The need to provide stakeholder input into system impacting changes such as competency lends itself to creation of a legislative work group that can help facilitate these important conversations to provide well-vetted and viable proposals that impact numerous stakeholder organizations represented here. There was also mention of support for this type of work group at the last meeting. So while competency may be the initial topic, there can be other topics addressed as well through this work group. At this time, is there a motion and a second for establishing a legislative work group for JRAC?
Judge, I motion.
That's second.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Steve. There was a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We don't need a roll call, I'm told, because we no longer have members joining us virtually, but I do believe we still have a quorum. So I'm just going to go ahead and start again at this end of the table. David?
Yes.
Chris?
Sorry, I still am still here.
Oh, I'm sorry. So and Daniel, thank you, because I said we didn't need it, but I started with the roll call anyway. So Daniel.
I'm a yes, but I am still here.
Okay.
I am still here.
And Danny, you're a yes as well. Angela?
Yes.
Judge?
Aye.
Ashley?
Yes.
Sheriff?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Derek?
Aye.
Sarah?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Carol?
Aye.
Chris?
Yes.
So, okay, Steve. And that's it, okay. Thank you. And I hope you leave encouraged as well, Jordan and Sarah, because I think you will find one of the things this group was created about 10 years ago out of a similar crisis. We were at capacity in DOC largely because of opioids, and there was a structure that was put in place to try and build consensus around scarcity, right? If we've got scarce resources to throw at a particular issue, it's important that we prioritize them and we talk and we come up with those 80% solutions. So in my view, this is exactly the type of problem that a group like this is well tailored to address. And I think that any legislation that is produced will be the best possible product that can come out, because you will have the opportunity to hear from everyone. So I hope that you're not too frustrated, because I'm confident that and this will help a lot of people. This will connect people to resources in a way that we've not been able to do in the past. So we very much look forward to working with you and having a robust conversation around solutions. And I expect, some of you folks that are the regular users, the sheriffs, the prosecutors, I hope that we have the opportunity to have some regular conversations with your board and talk to them about how to include them in a way that recognizes the fact that they are limited in their staff and resources, but their impact and their participation is important. Derek, your members are very dispersed and have very strong points of view often, and it's important to engage them so that they can understand the capacity issues that we're working with. But we truly want to make sure that we're connecting those scarce resources in the places they're most needed. Thank you, Michelle. If your agency would like to send a representative to the legislative group, please email Riley and indicate that so that we can make sure that we're corresponding with them appropriately and they get notice of all of the meetings. Anything else with respect to the presentation before we move on? Okay. Well, Sarah, Jordan, thank you again. We very much look forward to working with you. We do have about 10 minutes left, and this was a packed agenda, but I do want to take the opportunity to ask if there are any member report outs. David, is there anything that you'd like to share with the group?
No, just thanks for both presentations today. I always come away from these meetings educated, so I appreciate everything you're all doing, and definitely want to have a conversation with you all about how we can make sure our members are engaged in a solution for this competency hearing and finding available beds.
Thank you, David. Chris, how are you? Anything to report from the DOC?
Yeah, sure. Just real quick, the community correction grants that I'm sure everybody's been wondering about, they were due to us on April 1st, so the teams will be reviewing those and making recommendations. So hopefully by the next JRAC we'll be able to make the report out on those funds. So thank you.
Just really appreciate the presentations today. I can't tell you how much respect I have for what you guys go through. I mean, you do a service for the community that most of us don't see, and I really appreciate what you do. So that's it.
Good morning. Yes, we had our new chief orientation in March. We trained 8 new chiefs or assistant chiefs, and we're working on our fall conference in September.
Really appreciate you. Thank you for being here and keeping the lights on in Johnson County. Judge, haven't seen you since yesterday.
Yeah, we just had our Spring Judicial College this week, and the last session that I went to was a long session, very well attended, had to do with this very issue of competency. So it's a very important conversation. Jordan, I appreciate y'all's thoughts on that. We certainly want to engage in helping find solutions. I agree that it's a sense where the system is kind of broken and we can help fix that to some extent. So thanks for that.
Thank you, as always, Judge Spitzer. Ashley, from our Community Corrections Partners.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Justice. I would just like to say I think it's a great forum that everyone here at the table hears the crisis, but also that I do believe the Judges Association and everyone at the local levels have already been aware of this crisis and have been trying to address it. We just don't necessarily have the means. So partnering with everybody who does have the capability of making some changes, I think is a move in the right direction. So I really do believe that a community supervision partner should be at that table, because with the pretrial initiatives that we have in our local JRACs, I believe we all have a very important role we can play in those initial interactions with individuals who are coming into the criminal justice system. So the only other update I have for ICAC is that we are preparing to execute our spring conference in May. We are going to have a presenter by the name of Sabrina Moon. She'll be presenting just leadership, leading people well under pressure. And I think for our community supervision leadership, it's really important with all the grant restraints and resource restraints that we're dealing with right now, managing the morale in our agencies and retaining those staff who have the experience to keep moving community supervision in the right direction. So, thank you.
Actually, I agree. Couldn't be more important to be able to connect with your constituents. They're the ones who are going to have to make the connections to treatment in order to keep situations from escalating and eventually, needing a state bed. So, I agree. You should have a seat at the table. Sheriff.
New to the group, but I will just say that the Sheriff's Association, it's important we work with all of you as a group, especially with the mental health issues, because that is one of the most expensive things we have to deal with our budgets with the sheriffs, and it's a conversation we have all the time. So anything that we can do to be a part of that conversation and help out, definitely, because I know that these small counties have a lack of resources and compared to the bigger counties, and I think the ISA could really be a strong partner in that. So.
Your willingness to step up and be engaged. Really appreciate it. Doug, how are you?
Good. We continue to build our capacity and supporting our mission to support all of you. Steve mentioned that we're working on a grant with Division of Mental Health and Addiction and the Sheriff's Association around opioids and treatment in jails. We've applied on behalf of the Department of Correction for some community corrections, technical assistance. We have a couple other grants that we've been working on and applied for. So as best I can tell, this is the first time in 10, 12 years that the Institute has applied for new funding from our federal agencies. So if you hear of opportunities, if there's things that you can partner on, we're trying to manage our capacity and when we can be helpful in applying for these things, or sometimes be the fiscal agent, and sometimes we're just going to give DMHA all the money so that they can put it through the processes they already have. So we're very flexible right now, but we are also trying not to get in a situation where we've overextended ourselves. But please let us know. We're happy to evaluate those opportunities. And for the record, we haven't received any money yet, so we may not be good at this, but we're going to try.
Well, I find, Doug, that you usually under-promise and over-deliver, so, and I mean that sincerely, but just continue to appreciate your having a seat at the table and the opportunity to engage with you to figure out better ways to serve the state, so thank you. Derek, hello.
Hello, Derek Mason with the Commission on Court-Appointed Attorneys. Things have been going well. We have record county participation with our program. We have continued, especially since the public defense appointment rate kind of crashed in 2020 with all COVID crisis and everything. We've continued to have pretty regular increases in the rate of public defense appointments. There's also with the attorney shortage. So our reimbursements have hit record levels on the public defense fund. So there's continued county interest with their own financial pressures and getting reimbursement from the commission for their public defense expenses. So it's been a busy time.
Well, we appreciate you making time to be here, Derek. You've got a difficult row to hoe with that, to keeping our courts staffed up, and so we appreciate your involvement and your perspective. Thank you. Sarah, anything else?
I do. So a little bit of a bittersweet announcement today. So some of you may already know that Becky, who has served DMHA for over 20 years, or about 20 years, right? Dedicated public servant who has really done a fantastic job leading some of the hardest work in the state of Indiana, has resigned. But the sweet part of this is that she's not leaving state government. She will be joining Doug as his chief of staff. So it's a great opportunity for Becky and for Doug. And then I am lucky enough to be blessed to have Kelly Welker on my team, who will be stepping into the interim role, backfilling Becky's position. So I think it's going to be a win-win for all of us. And we're grateful and thankful for everything that Becky has done for DMHA. You'll be missed, but she's just down the hallway, so we'll know how to find her.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you. It's great to be able to work with you again in a different capacity. And Becky, I want to just say how much I appreciate and respect you. You're just a consummate, competent public servant, and so I think the fact that you are in demand just speaks to that. But we certainly look forward to working with you in a little bit different capacity, and we're glad you could join us today. And Kelly, it'll be a pleasure to work with you again. And so glad to see you again, and look forward to working with you in your new role. Congratulations as well.
Thank you very much.
The only thing I guess I wanted to just say today is he doesn't know I'm doing this, but I'm going to ask Josh Woodward to say hello, if he could just wave to the group. Josh serves as Chief Justice Rush's counsel, and a little bit about the difference between Indiana's judicial branch and Indiana's executive branch. So we have a non-unified judicial branch. I serve in my role as JRAC chair as the Chief Justice's designee, and it's a lot. It's a lot of cats to herd. It's a lot of different perspectives to hold when I'm reporting to the chief. I asked Josh to attend some of these meetings because he has the opportunity to brief the chief more frequently than I do. And so much of what you want to share with her is important that I don't want to miss anything. The other thing I thought was important to know is sometimes our partners in the General Assembly have very limited time. We have a part-time legislature in Indiana, and so if they have something that they want to move, oftentimes they're going to want to approach the chief and ask for her time. She does everything she can to accommodate that. But when that happens, I want to make sure that she's in a position to receive the best information possible about what's important to you. And so I really appreciate Josh taking the time to be here today. Wanted you all to know him and a little bit about the important work that he does for our judicial branch. So thank you for taking the time today, Josh. Yeah. Chris.
You've heard enough from me today. I will ask if Angie has an update on the our grants. Otherwise, I'll yield my time in the
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, to get you all out of here.
Our grants also closed on the 1st of April. We are reviewing those, or we will be soon. We're trying to close up still the rest of 25, and we're working with the new database it's a learning curve for all of us. But yes, we will hopefully have recommendations or things we're putting together for next time as well. We're trying to work in conjunction with DOC and work together on that as much as we can. So.
Thank you both. Carolyn.
Nothing new on our end. We're in interim right now, but we are really interested to see the report outs from the legislative work group, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, Carolyn, continue to appreciate you sitting at the table. You had a very good first year so far at McKinney, too. So, but we appreciate that. We know that your bosses are very interested and engaged in this work, and so we appreciate you being here and letting us know what's important to them. So thank you. Yeah. Chris, hello.
Hey, hello. Great information today, Justice. It's good to see everyone.
Good to see you. Thank you for taking the time to be here today, Chris. Really appreciate it. Zoe.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Zoe France with the Indiana Council of Community Mental Health Centers. A couple announcements. So we have reframed our criminal justice work group with work that we've done, and I just am really honored to do such great work with Brittany Kelly at the Behavioral Health Office. And so we have reshaped our work group to be the Justice Work Group. And that is providers, judges, public defenders, Steve, both Mental Health America and the Sheriff Association, counties attend that work group. And so if you are not plugged into that, it's really to review the AOT ongoing work and how we can continue to get this statewide and have continued statewide support. Because while it's not competency, it does help in fitting into this overall problem that Jordan and Sarah did such a nice job on. So please join our work group on May 19th. And if you want that work group invitation and on the calendar, the amazing Sydney Moulton back there, my government affairs staff, will be able to get you connected. So see her for that. And then the second thing I wanted to share is on May 7th, we are having our quarterly conference, and there is a community partner way to register. And the reason why I'm sharing this conference in particular is it is going to be going over all of the federal Medicaid changes. And as I mentioned to Jordan earlier, these changes will impact all of us in this room. Let's not think that it will not touch us. It will touch us, and so we need to be aware and ready. As Secretary Grove said, if a snowstorm is going to happen, and we need to have our snow shovel and snowsuits on to have people prepared in these changes. So please join us for that. And then we will also have an update from the Office of Behavioral Health and Indiana Supreme Court, as well as we're going to be talking about person-centered staff safety as we have developed crisis and have seen an increase in some pretty severe safety issues with our staff within our system. We're going to have a panel from our providers about person-centered staff safety. And so please join us for that. And then last but not least, we'll have a CCBHC competency restoration, and DMHA update. And so that will all be taking place. That information is on the council's website, so just wanted to invite all of you to be able to attend that on May 7th. And then the best thing of that day is our member awards. And so our community mental health centers and the staff do amazing work, and so we will be recognizing those individuals. And so please join us over lunch to be able to celebrate the great work that our community mental health system does.
It's a great report, Zoe. Thank you. Thank you. And we need you at the table for these discussions.
Yes. Well, I have.
Or Sydney. Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. That's great.
Yes.
Steve.
Yeah, many of you have attended in the past the Mental Health America Symposium, Mental Health and Addiction Symposium. Sarah spoke last year, and we just nailed down the date for this year, which has not been announced yet, but it's going to be November 13th, which is a Friday. It's actually a little earlier than usual. We're trying to avoid the snow. And hopefully, if you're interested and you want to attend, we'll be sending stuff out. I'm sure it'll be well worth your time.
Thank you, Steve. Great to see you today.
Thanks.
Steve, anything from ISA?
No, other than we just keep moving along, and we appreciate everybody's hard work here. It's great to have these partnerships and relationships, because this is my favorite meeting I go to, other than when I have to do something with the sheriffs. But I can tell you, this is something I take away a lot of information, and I'm just appreciating what everybody does here. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Appreciate your partnership, Steve. Thank you for taking the time. Yep. So, Daniel, thank you for hanging with us. Anything from SBA?
Not really. We're in the throes of beginning the instructions for budget development. So agencies are hearing about that. In the next month, we'll have those done. And out to the agencies for them to start going through that process.
Well, Daniel, it's good to see you. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your engagement with JRAC. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Denise, I don't know if you're still with us, but I want to give you a chance for last. Nope, she's not. So never mind, Denise. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Our next scheduled meeting is June 26th, and I look forward to seeing you then, if not before, in the context of work group. So we'll stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.